Hey, are you Adam Graham?
The very same. And this is my old-time radio snack wagon.
Welcome to the Old-Time Radio Snack Wagon, where we serve up a bite-sized portion of old-time radio. And now, here's your Snack Wagon host, Adam Graham.
We're back with our first snack of our new season on this federal holiday honoring George Washington. And we're bringing you an episode of yet another state historical drama series. This one is called Pennsylvania, Keystone of Democracy. This was a series with a very important task as a joint project of the Pennsylvania Historical Commission and the State Council of Defense in 1942. The very first episode of the series looked at a particular incident involving George Washington in Pennsylvania that was very relevant to the people living in the shadow of newly declared war. So here, from March 11th, 1942, is Washington at Valley Forge.
Pennsylvania, 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 Keystone of Democracy. I love your valleys and hills, I always will. You're the one great state that I am always for. Today we present the first in a new series of programs to be known as Pennsylvania, Keystone of Democracy. Historical dramatizations showing the part our own state of Pennsylvania has played in the development of our American democracy. This series is prepared and produced by the Pennsylvania Historical Commission in cooperation with the State Council of Defense in order to acquaint you better with the glorious history of our great Commonwealth, Pennsylvania, Keystone of Democracy. Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, and no matter where I roam, you will always be home, sweet home to me, Pennsylvania, my home.
We should all be considered as one people, embarked in one cause, in one interest, acting on the same principle and to the same end.
Those were the words of George Washington during the dark days at Valley Forge, where his army encamped during the critical months of the winter of 1777 and 1778. Today, as then, our need is unity in one cause, one interest, the preservation of our democracy.
Valley Forge. No spot in all our land, not even Independence Hall, is a more glorious shrine of liberty, dear to the hearts of all Americans.
Valley Forge. Washington's example of leadership and steadfast faith in ultimate victory for the cause of freedom should inspire every American in this hour when the fate of liberty is once more at stake.
Pennsylvania is proud of Valley Forge. Let us pause and review the stirring drama enacted on the rolling hillsides of southeastern Pennsylvania from December 1777 to June 1778. The Continental Army has fought bravely and well at Brandywine and Germantown, but Lord Howe has occupied Philadelphia, and Congress has withdrawn to York. The cause of independence is at a low ebb. Washington is withdrawing his tiny army of 11,000 men to a point about 23 miles from Philadelphia where he can watch the enemy. At the same time, he is in position to protect the furnaces and forges of interior Pennsylvania, vital war industry. Columns of ragged and ill-fed men trudged valiantly over rock-strewn roads in chill snow and slush.
The game is yet in our hands. To play it well is all we have to do.
True,
What say
General
you?
Washington, true, but the plight of the troops is serious. We have 11,000 of the bravest men ever to wear a uniform, but we do need supplies of food, clothing, and medicines. Do you not agree, Dr. Waldo?
Conditions speak for themselves. Look, there comes a soldier now with bare feet showing through his shoes and his uniform in shreds. Have you not seen the bloody footprints in the snow? And yet, General, They are enduring with patience and fortitude.
My heart goes out to them. Would that some of our members of Congress could see them now. General Wayne, our posterity will owe a debt of gratitude to these brave men. Poor fellows. Poor fellows.
And we do owe a debt of gratitude to those brave men who endured that we might have our freedom. Arriving at Valley Forge, the cold, ragged, hungry army set to work to construct small log huts with fireplaces for warmth. Hundreds died, and hundreds more suffered bitterly. Washington himself lived in a tent until his soldiers were housed. By February, the last of the huts were completed, but the want of food and supplies continued. Let us look in upon Washington dictating an appeal to Congress for aid.
Some days past, there has been little less than a famine in camp. Part of the army has been a week without any kind of meat. The unfortunate soldiers are in want of everything. They have neither coats, hats, shirts, nor shoes. Naked and starving as they are, we cannot enough admire the incomparable patience and fidelity of the soldiery. However, unless some great and capital change suddenly takes place, this army must be inevitably reduced to one or the other of these three things: starve, dissolve, or disperse in order to obtain subsistence. I can assure you, gentlemen, that it is well nigh a tragic state of affairs to see men without clothes to cover their nakedness, without blankets to lie on, without shoes, is a proof of patience and obedience which, in my opinion, can scarce be paralleled. Dispatch that at once, if you will. May God help us to endure until the Congress comes to our aid.
Patience and obedience. Those are indeed virtues necessary for victory in any struggle. They were not without avail in those trying days at Valley Forge. Despite adverse conditions, with the aid of Baron von Steuben and Lafayette, the army was trained and organized. Let us look in upon a scene in Washington's headquarters in early April. Lafayette is speaking.
General Washington, the cause of liberty begins to look brighter. I have heard from my native France that the good Dr. Franklin is working wonders in persuading my country to come to your aid.
That is well, friend Lafayette. It is cheering news. We will welcome the aid of France as we have welcomed the aid of all friends of freedom from all the world who have shared in our struggle. Oh, how much we owe to you, my dear Marquis, and to the good Baron von Steuben. Here he comes now.
I salute you, General Washington, and you too, General Lafayette. Ach, these soldiers of ours. It is slow work on the drill field. Maybe I could do better, General, if someone would swear for me in good English.
My good Baron, swearing or no swearing, you are doing splendidly. Already I can see a new spirit in the army. We are going to show our enemy a different army when we move from here.
That will be good, General Washington. These men have something that is lacking in the armies of my old country. Something that even the great Frederick could give them.
Oh, these American rebels, Baron. The love of liberty seems born in them. Hardship is nothing. Would that the same spirit of independence take root among your countrymen and mine. I tell you, Baron, these Americans are going to be the guardians of liberty for centuries to come.
Gentlemen, you love freedom as much as we do. I believe all peoples are born with that spirit, but oft-times intolerant and ruthless government suppresses it. The fact that men like you are fighting with us is proof that the desire for liberty is a universal one.
Yes, men like Lafayette and von Steuben were of great assistance to the cause of independence. The devotion of this German soldier to the cause of freedom is in striking contrast to the intolerance and oppression of Hitlerism today. At Valley Forge, the darkest hours were before dawn. Early in May, news of the French alliance arrived at Washington's headquarters. Washington is reading a proclamation to his officers.
It having pleased the almighty ruler of the universe propitiously to defend the cause of the United American States and to establish our liberty and independence upon a lasting foundation, it becomes us to set apart a day for gratefully acknowledging the divine goodness and offering up a prayer of thanksgiving.
The morning of May 6th, 1778, dawned at Valley Forge with a light of new hope. The little army, depleted to less than one half the number engaged in the bitter march of the preceding December by death and illness, was nevertheless full of a new spirit. Spring had come, and news of the alliance with France meant the turning point in the struggle for independence. It was a morning of martial music. Laughter and good feeling.
Listen to the men, General Vane. One could hardly believe this to be the army of December. Oh, but what they have endured, and how many have fallen on these frozen drill grounds. It is the dawn of a new day, General Vane.
Yes, Marquis, it is that. We can now march forth to meet the foe with new assurance of victory. For out of the cold and darkness of these long winter days here at Valley Forge has come a new spirit which will make a new nation dedicated to the preservation of freedom. The sacrifices of our men, I am confident, will not have been in vain. Marquis, I venture to predict that it will not be many decades before your own land will breathe fully the same air of freedom and liberty.
God grant, General Vane, that your vision is an accurate one. May this alliance lead to the rebirth of France. Quiet. General Washington is about to speak to the army.
Men of the Continental Army, I now make it my earnest prayer that God would have you all in his holy protection, that he would incline the hearts of the citizens to cultivate a spirit of subordination and obedience to government, and to demean ourselves with that charity, humility, and pacific temper of mind which were the characteristics of the divine author of our blessed religion.
Out of the cold and hunger of that terrible winter at Valley Forge came a new birth of freedom.
The debt owed by us today to the men of Valley Forge and to Washington cannot be paid in mere words of gratitude and praise. What they won there we must maintain, lest they suffered in vain and to no purpose.
Unswerving devotion to country and to our ideals of liberty, tireless effort and unselfish sacrifice in the field, in the factory, in the home, and on the battlefront are the ways in which we can repay those heroes who left their footprints in blood on the snows at Valley Forge.
Yes, we can and we will repay the debt. We'll go on to win this new battle for freedom. The cry of every loyal Pennsylvanian is, we will keep the faith. We'll give our all to the cause of liberty and democracy. That is the spirit of Pennsylvania. That is what made our great state the Keystone of Democracy.
Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, you're the land that I adore. I love your valleys and hills, I always will. You're the one great state that I am always for.
Today's story was devoted to Washington at Valley Forge, showing how this Commonwealth again contributed to the cause of freedom and democracy. Pennsylvania did it before, and Pennsylvania will do it again. You can help today by your effort in the field, mine, and factory. Conserve war materials, prevent waste. buy defense bonds and savings stamps. And listen again next week for another thrilling episode of Pennsylvania, Keystone of Democracy.
Pennsylvania, and no matter where I roam, you will always be home, sweet home to me. Pennsylvania, my home.
Welcome back. A fascinating story that drew some important parallels. Like many World War II era programs, a connection was made between past fights for freedom to the then ongoing conflict. And you could see that in things like the mention of other nations coming to America's aid during the Revolution, just as America was going to the aid of other nations in World War II. The image of Valley Forge was also a powerful one that Americans could relate to. Americans were at a time of insecurity and uncertainty. The country was in the process of full mobilization. The Japanese had made gains in the Pacific, and on the West Coast, Americans were conscious of the risk of a Japanese attack, while on the East Coast, American shipping lanes were terrorized by German U-boats. While everyone hoped for a quick victory, the news on the war front was often discouraging and disheartening, and it demanded that Americans dig in and push through their daily lives and daily tasks and everything they did to support the war effort, just as those at Valley Forge had done. And indeed, even though Washington was in the title and part of the story, it was less about him than it was the forgotten fighters who kept the flame of hope alive in difficult circumstances, not unlike what Americans were operating under in March of 1942. It should be noted that Pennsylvania, Keystone of Democracy was not just a radio series. There were also a series of newspaper articles under the same title serving the same ends that were published in papers across the state of Pennsylvania. In times of peace, history is a topic that might be a curiosity, but can just as easily be ignored or laughed off. But in times of adversity, it is powerful because hope is powerful. And that can be cultivated by understanding how your world came to be and the part that you have to play. It's time for me to close up the old snack wagon, but don't worry, we'll be back with another serving of old-time radio goodness before you know it. If you want to enjoy some of our longer form podcasts, you can feast away at my website at greatdetectives.net. Your emails are also welcome at adam@snackwagon.net.
The Old Time Radio Snack Wagon comes to you from Boise, Idaho. Your host is Adam Graham. Sound production is by Rhines Media, LLC. You can listen to past episodes of the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon as well as connect on social media at our website at snackwagon.net. Email suggestions for episodes to adam@snackwagon.net. This has been the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon.
Until next time, goodbye.